Yes, I think that's the same. Well, good morning, everyone. So good to be gathered together again for this final edition of our second edition of the Inside Story until the fall. And it's my pleasure to welcome this morning Jessica Instead and some of the college students who took the spring break service trip to Kentucky. Enough said. They will share their experience with us, and we're looking forward to that. So thank you for being with us this morning.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming and listening to us talk about our experience. These are five of the students who went on the trip. There were 12. Father Steve, you want to join us at the end? Father Steve also went on the trip, for those of you who may have forgotten. So 12 students, Father Steve and I, went down to Kentucky a couple weeks ago on the spring break trip. So I'll just have them all introduce themselves and share why they went on the trip. We'll share a few pictures about the work we did, and then talk about what we took away from the trip, how we were impacted, how God worked. And that'll be that. So I'm Jessica Instead, the campus minister most of the time. There's a lot of confusion some days, but I took them to Kentucky.
My name is Gretchen. I'm a family and consumer sciences major at UWSP, and I'm a sophomore. And I went on this trip because I had never gone on an out-of-state service trip before, and I really wanted to try it out and see what it was like.
My name is Austin. I'm also a sophomore. I'm a music education major, and here at Stevens Point. And I went on this trip because like Gretchen said, I've never been on a service trip like this before, and I thought it would be a great way to help others and just build great community.
I'm Laura. I'm a sophomore. I'm majoring in communication sciences and disorders, and I went on the trip because I knew it would be a great opportunity, and I knew that I would not regret going.
Hello, I'm Mackenzie. I'm a junior studying communication sciences and disorders and psychology. I went on the trip because I've always wanted to go on a service trip as well, but never got the chance to. And Kentucky is just beautiful, so why not?
Hi, I'm Shelby. I'm a chemistry major at UWSP, and I decided to go because I thought it would bring me closer to people in the Point Catholic organization, and I had never been on a mission trip before.
Father Steve Bryce, I went on this trip because 9 days before they were going to leave, I walked into my office and found a sobbing campus minister there at my room and said, "What's the problem?" They said, "The diocese just said enterprise insurance isn't enough. We have to have 25-year-old drivers." Even though I'm just barely 26, I was able to get in and drive on the trip, and also look forward to the opportunity.
So these, along with the rest of the crew, in addition to these 5, there was seniors, transfer students, just a whole mix of students that went. So it was a really great opportunity for these 12 to come together and be in a van for 12 hours and get to know each other. So we'll share some pictures, and they'll talk about the work that they did. So the first day we drove to Owensboro, Kentucky, which many of you might have read or heard. We stopped and stayed at St. Joseph and Paul Parish, which is, we share the same mission with our twinning parish in Haiti. And so they graciously opened up their building, and we slept on the floor for the night, and they fed us dinner. And then the next morning, we went and had Mass with them before we headed out. So it was really beautiful to make that connection with them in Kentucky and get to meet them and some of the people who know Deacon Rick very well, and just get to make that bond about our mutual connection in Haiti. So they were very gracious and let us stay. And this is their beautiful new shrine that was just finished in the last year, and then a picture after Mass. And so after Mass, we drove the rest of the way, the next 4 hours, to eastern Kentucky, and we arrived at Camp AJ. And this is one of 2 camps where Christian Appalachian Project houses groups that come in for weeks at a time to do this service work. And so we arrived, got our shirts, and as you can see, there's just beautiful water and hiking trails that we were able to take advantage of the whole week. And as you may see or know, it was 70 degrees in Kentucky, and I hear it was not that way here. So we definitely were lucky and did enjoy a spring break, even though we weren't in Florida. So it was very nice. So the whole week we were split into 4 crews by different colors, so all 14 of us were split up. And so I'll have the people who are on the different crews explain the work that they did that week, along with some pictures that we have. Yeah.
Okay, so there were 4 days that we worked on this house, and so Monday was a lot of these pictures. We had to learn how to use all of the different tools, and we put up a whole lot of siding on this house. The house that we worked at, the husband that lives there had built it as a log cabin like 20 years ago, and his kids had helped out, so this house had meant so much to them, but it was just kind of getting old and not doing well. So we were putting up some siding to make it a better outside of the house. And then that's more of the siding that we were putting up. We put up a lot of siding. In the first picture, there used to be like a very large rock that was part of a fireplace, so we had to figure out how to get the rock out, put up some board to keep it insulated, and then put up like the house wrap and the siding, so there was a whole lot of siding involved. Laura, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, so I was pretty much on siding the whole week. There were some other smaller jobs that got done around the house, like you guys were under the house. You can talk about that later if you want to. But I was also, they put up Wonder Board, which is like concrete, like half-inch thick boards of concrete basically. So we had to put that around the outside of the house to like keep animals from getting underneath, but then we also had to cut holes in it, like with a Sawzall, and put in vents to allow air under there so it wouldn't trap moisture under the house and rot the floors, because that was also another problem they were having, was the floors were kind of bad, which we did not get to, but that was sort of to try and slow the process of that happening.
So this was my favorite part of the trip. I really wanted to go under the house, and so that middle picture with 3 of us in extra large white hazmat suits is the after of us going under the house, putting up insulation all of Wednesday. That was what we did. The 2 pictures on the left, that was us also under the house. The bottom one, we were putting in those vents that Laura had just talked about, but it was like underneath the patio. So that was what we were doing in those. And then the picture on the right, I was the photographer for our crew, and I made them all take a picture at the end of each day. And that one is just so fun because we accidentally went in rainbow order. So that was just a really fun picture. But it was just such a great experience to go under that house and put up insulation and some tarp on the ground to keep that moisture from coming up into the house. So that was such a good part of the trip.
And I don't know if you can see, her smiling face is the same one that's in that bottom picture in the little hazmat suit. Same face. Next crew is Blue Crew, is Shelby and I. Shelby, do you want to talk about the week?
Okay, so me and Jessica were on the same crew. We took a lot of siding off, we painted inside a house, and we put in underpinning as well to keep like water and animals out of the bottom. And the first day when we took the siding off, I don't know, but it sounds like Jessica, she has a pretty stressful job. And on our first day, we were taking siding off, and she was like smashing the house. Like she was gonna take a wall down or something, letting all that anger out. Or all the stress. But it was fun. We became a lot closer, I'd say. She was a spirit leader, so she had to all keep us like hyped up during the day, and I was a safety monitor, so I'd make sure she was like staying under control though.
Yeah, so like Shelby said, her and I had a lot of odd jobs. We are in a smaller crew compared to the other ones. And so the first day, we did siding, and then we painted. There's a picture on the last slide. And then this day, we dug trenches and did that underpinning around the outside of the house, and hung up some chipboard in the inside of this garage. So it was really rewarding. Shelby and I did a lot of smaller jobs throughout the week, but to finish 3 or 4 projects was just really cool to start and finish something. Although we weren't working on a roof or under a house or doing anything crazy like that, but we painted the whole inside of a house and took all the siding off. We just got to finish the jobs that we started, which was really fun. And that is Shelby and my crew in the middle, our little picture. The red crew, neither Melina or Lexi could be here, so I will speak to what they did. They were mainly on the roof the whole week. Most of our crews were on the roof the whole week, which was very fun and good experience for them. A lot of them had never done that before and gotten the chance to learn how to take shingles off. So they took shingles off most of the week. And this is just a really cool picture of them all on the roof. So that is, what they did most of the week is take shingles off, then clean up the shingles, and lay things down on the roof for the next crew the next week to finish the roof. The orange crew, Austin, do you want to?
So, as everyone echoed, we did roof work for about 2 days. Just a little background on what we're building. So, as you can see, the mobile home right there, and then the addition of the house. So they needed extra room. So our job was to build a 2-bedroom house so they can house their grandchildren. And they don't know it's for them, so it's a little surprise when it's found out. So I thought that was pretty cool. So the first day was a lot of learning how to use all of the tools and stuff. I was unfamiliar with most of them, so it was a learning experience for me. And then later in that day, we finished up the roof, just the roof framework. And then on Tuesday and Wednesday, we started doing the majority of putting the tin roof on. And the downside was it started raining on Tuesday, so we got to go on the roof while it was raining. So it was very interesting, but it was a very great experience. And it was my first experience going on the tin roof, so it was fun.
Okay, just refreshing my memory a little bit, So after we were up on the roof, we came down and finally we could be inside when it was raining and not be all soaking wet. We put on some windows. That's how they pronounce it down in Kentucky, according to Clarence, who is one of the volunteers. So we got to we got to saw out the wall for the opening of the window, and that was pretty fun because it was like a big saw and you just kind of cut along and made a big hole in the house and then got to fill it with a window. And then the bottom picture is the underpinning, what Gretchen was talking about, and we also had to do that. Father Steve, do you want to say anything?
Just to note, I mentioned we worked Southern style. In the upper left, you're seeing 7 grown men watch McKinsey on the ladder nail in the surrounding sheath before we put the window in. I saw a lot of moments like that. Now, in the other picture, I don't know if you noticed, but there's no plywood sheeting that they put down on the ceilings. It was just rafters and a little styrofoam piece and the tin. I don't know if that's because they don't have heavy snow loads or cost savings, but the construction down there was a little bit different. And just to say a little bit about the guests down there, this Clarence, as I didn't have a high school education when he started working for CAP, but he was a genius in working with people, and he really turned us from a bunch of scared, unengaged individuals into a team that could tackle anything. He was just really so good a soul that you loved working for him and with him.
Yeah, they did such amazing work. It was so cool at the end of every day for everyone to like get back with their vans and everyone just be like, what'd you do today? Like, how was your day? But yeah, like Father Steve said, if you've seen this picture, Mackenzie is the only female with all these men all week, and she also rode down in the van with 6 men the whole entire way. So she just got an award for just being one of the guys the whole week. She's amazing. Yeah. And so this is our last group picture on Friday morning before we headed off for the 11-hour drive back. So you can see some of them were less than pleased at the end of a week of me making them take pictures and before we had to get in a van for 11 hours. But this is with the sign right outside the camp. And one last picture before we headed off. So that was the work that we did all week. And now I'll have all of them share just like how they are impacted looking back a couple weeks out, how they saw God work in their lives, what sort of changes did they feel coming back from a week of service.
So like I had said, I got to go under the house. We learned how to use so many different tools. I'd been on a roof. Like, I learned how to do so many different like physical things during that week, which was so cool to learn. And the people that lived at the house that we were working at, they were just so giving. Like, they would make us fried cornbread and homemade fudge and pinto bean soup. Like, they made us meals and snacks. They made so much food for us. They gave so much back. And it was so incredible to see that they had so little and could still give anything that they could. And that was just so heartwarming to see, and so good that we were able to help them have a safe, dry, warm place to live. So it was just a really great experience to get to know those residents and the other mentors that we had. 2 of them were also from Wisconsin, so that was just really fun. We were a whole bunch of Wisconsinites there, and it was just so good to have such great mentors and great community building, and it was just life-changing.
Yeah, so to echo what Gretchen said, this was my first time doing a lot of this stuff, so I got to wire the whole house, or as Kentuckians would say, Warren. So I was an electrician and a carpenter and a roof worker, and that was so amazing. And I wasn't originally planning on going on the roof because obviously it was raining, and it was a little scary at first. But then Clarence decided to push me along, and I ended up getting up there. And when I did get up there, he decided to shake me and said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" But instead of getting more nervous, I got more relaxed for some reason up there. So it was just great, and God worked with me in so many ways. So I grew physically with learning a whole bunch of new things that I've never done before, as well as growing internally as well. I grew as a person. I was able to meet so many great people that God put into my life, and I got more relaxed because I'm usually like a tense, uptight person. So being able to relax during the most stressful times, it is very life-changing and so fantastic.
So kind of like these guys have said already, I also learned a lot on the trip, like learning what goes into building a house and how to use a whole bunch of different tools, which was really cool. And I also learned sort of a new perspective on how much we take for granted here as far as like having secure structures to live in. That's something that a lot of people down there go without, but they do it so cheerfully. Like Gretchen said, the people whose house we were working on, they were so welcoming to us, and they gave back to us. And it was amazing to see how cheerfully the people live down there, even though they go without a lot of stuff, but they do it so willingly. And so it was so nice to be able to help them to, sort of have the homes that they deserve.
For me, it was probably the Thursday night before we left. I had a major freak out. I was crying because I was nervous about going. It was my spring break, and I just kind of wanted to go home and get refreshed with my parents and my pets back at home. But I already signed up. I couldn't get out of it. But I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was so rewarding, and it was just super cool being down there. And it actually was probably the first time I was the happiest, like, in a really long time. So just feeling that joy again and being surrounded by people who love God, love each other, and all working towards the same cause. Some really cool parts about the trip was that we prayed. It was, oh gosh, I don't even know how many times we prayed during the day. But when we got to the work site, we all came together, held hands, and prayed before we started working. And then our break for lunch, we also started praying before lunch. And then finally, at the end of our workday, we also prayed again. And just having that experience was so cool. And being able to pray with everybody in the group was really nice. And then on, I think it was our last day of work, we got to go adventure to a waterfall. And Jimbo, he was the one guiding us on this waterfall adventure. He paused us on top of the waterfall, and we all like circled up and sat on the ground. And we also prayed there, which was a really cool experience. Like, I've never really prayed out in nature before with a group of friends, but this time was one of the first, and it's something that I'd like to continue because it was cool.
So when I signed up for this trip, I didn't have anything going on over spring break, so I was like, okay, I'll just go and see what's happening down in Kentucky. But like Mackenzie said, the day before we left, my family came and visited me just because I wasn't going to be home for spring break, and so that was really hard, and I was like, oh, I'm really going to miss them. I wish I didn't maybe sign up for this. But I ended up really liking it and got closer with a lot of the Point Catholic people and the ride down and stuff. And God really worked in at my site. Well, I had to be with Jessica for a whole week, so that was tough. But just kidding, just kidding. But yeah, we became really close at our site since it was normally just the three of us girls, and we had our crew leader. We'd call her like mom, and me and Jessica were like the kids. It was fun, and we just got really close with them. And like when we came back to the campsite every night, just hearing what everyone else did at their site. It was really rewarding hearing how we were like really making a difference in these people's lives, and how like everyone at CAP they all have the same goal, and we all just want to help people and like live our Christian life.
I was moved to prayer many times on this experience. After months and weeks of intensive planning, we load the two vans. I was driving one, Jack was driving the other. He was going to follow me, so we'd make our way all the way down there. We pull out of the parking lot. We get to the corner of Stanley and 4th. I turn out Stanley to go out to the highway. Jack keeps going the opposite direction. We weren't a block from the church, and we got separated on this 9-hour journey. We began praying immediately for the rest of the journey. And I remember our first day of work. We pulled out of the camp up there. I was with my team. Mackenzie was riding gunshot next to me, and the guys were in the back. We just come down from the place. We take our turn onto the highway, and the guys say, play some tunes. And she reaches over and turns the transmission knob. It was a new van, and the transmission was just this little dial right there by all the radio things. And luckily she turned from drive to neutral instead of into reverse, or it would have been kind of dramatic there. So I was moved to prayer by that experience too. And I was moved to prayer coming back to lovely Wisconsin, where we have garbage pickup. I mean, there are places that we saw were just so disheartening in terms of the carelessness. We went to this waterfall, this state park, and it must have had flooded and washed out. All the trails were washed out. It was just, not cared for as well as our parks and so forth. So I believe in paying taxes. I believe in the strong community, and we have such a high quality of life in Wisconsin. It just became so clear. But on the other hand, the richness of faith, what an experience of ecumenism. The organization was originally founded by a Catholic priest who somebody said he had like 4 counties in his parish and 11 parishioners when he was first sent there out of those 4 counties, and he saw the need and began this work, and other churches joined in hands, and so now it's a lovely mixture, primarily of Southern Baptist and Catholic people, but there's just no sense of any kind of division or boundary between, and really edifying, deeply faithful people who are in this for the glory of God. I mean, really, just long-term volunteers coming from all over the country in their retirement have done this year after year after year. The directors, most impressive people, spirituality-wise and organization-wise. So the Spirit of God very present there. And then lastly, as I said before, I think we went down a very diverse group of people, you know, on every level, church relation, majors in school, styles of music, I don't know, all of those things were so different. And it could have easily been a very difficult experience, but that getting lost in serving other people, I think we just came out of ourselves and we're bound together. And it really fills me with hope for what Holy Spirit Parish can become, what American can be in the future. No collection needed after that sermon.
That's why he goes last. So I was the only one in our group who had gone on this service trip to Kentucky before I went my freshman year of college. And so like all of them kind of shared, like it took a leap of faith for them to come. And so I'm so grateful that all 12 of them just trusted me enough to sign up and to like make that sacrifice of not being able to go home. Because I knew I've done service trips before and I knew how good it was going to be. And so I hoped that they trusted me enough and that I didn't twist their arm enough and that they did want to go. But I truly say all 14 of us came back changed people. We just had an incredible experience there that you can't have every day. Just getting to be immersed in that culture and just be outside of this community, this town, this state, just really opens your eyes to so much. One of the most impactful parts for me was, you know, like I said, I'd been there before, and so like this wasn't about me. This was me like bringing these 12 students to like have this experience. So just a first time for me going as like the leader and campus minister and not as a student and getting to like take a group was just quite the experience with all of the planning and all of the hiccups beforehand, but just like getting down there and every day, all 12 of them like running up and just like bursting with like energy and joy about like all the work that they did. And like many of them shared 8 hours of hard physical labor that none of them had ever done before, but having them come back the most alive and happy and just full of life that I'd ever seen them just fills my heart so much with joy, because on campus and in this community, they are stressed, overwhelmed, like school is their number one priority, and rightfully so. This is an incredibly difficult time, and so to see all 12 of them outside of that environment and not stressed and happy and authentically themselves just like moved me to tears, like just to see them so happy and getting this experience was more than what I could have ever hoped for. And so I'm so happy that we were able to go, and I hope that their experience just ignites other students and we can continue this and just bring even more students. If not the same 12 crew wants to go back next year, we might have to double the crew, because they all were sharing just wanting to go back and, you know, just not only see the volunteers that we worked with, but just get that experience again and do that kind of hard physical labor that just helps you grow more than just physically. Anything else any of you want to share? Any questions?
So how many actual experienced carpenters and stuff did you have on your crews?
I'm just going to pick someone to answer the question.
Okay, well, Clarence, he was kind of the lead guy on our site. He had so much knowledge and was super good at teaching us how to do that. And then we had a gentleman named Jay, and I believe he had quite a bit of experience with carpentry and like stuff like that. And then the other ones were just long-term volunteers, I'm pretty sure. Is that accurate? Oh, from our team? Outside of the team. Yeah, so like, yeah. I think each group had like one main like leader who knew things and like really knew their stuff, and then the other ones were long-term volunteers who kind of knew what they were doing as well.
So with Christian Appellation Project, works with AmeriCorps, so you can be a short-term volunteer, a long-term volunteer. So on some of their crews, they were working with people their same age who were there for a year or were there for a couple months. And sort of those types of volunteers that weren't experienced, but they had worked with the organization and were skilled enough in the work to teach them. And then on each site, there were 2 or 3 adults who either were long-term volunteers that were much older than us, or employees of Christian Appellation Project who were assigned to each site to lead our crews. So yeah, it was really, each group I think was 10 or a dozen, so it was really 2 or 3 of them, 2 or 3 other people, so they really, were equally as hands-on as all of the other experienced construction people.
So I think for me, physically was probably the biggest challenge just because I didn't know how to use most of those tools, and nailing up siding for days on end can get really lengthy and difficult. Even though I loved going under the house, there were a bunch of little critters on there that freaked me out. So that was a little scary. And the house that we were working on, they had several dogs and a cat, and so the cat and the dogs would come under the house with us in this 2-foot space, and I was kind of freaked out because they're growling at me because they're scared because I'm in this white hazmat suit shining a light at them. But so it was just that was a little freaky, but probably physically was the biggest challenge to learn how to use everything and do it well. Guess I was the only one that was challenged.
Yeah, I don't, going off of the challenge thing combined with that question as well, it was super challenging work, but for some reason it felt super easy in a way. I don't know if it was just God working through us or if it was just because we had amazing support on the job site. But definitely was surprised that I was up on the roof, walking on the tin roof, screwing it down. There was one point where I was up there with Clarence without a harness on because it got to the point where we had to cap the roof. So that was, I guess, a challenge, being comfortable up there, but I knew Clarence would teach me and make sure I didn't fall and hurt myself. One point he attached me to him because it was super slippery, so if I fell, he probably would prevent me from falling off, but if he fell, I definitely would not be able to prevent him from falling. So we'd both go down. But yeah, I was definitely surprised that we were able to insulate the house and get a roof on top of it, and it was just really cool to see everything done. Anybody?
No, yeah, you said it all. You sure? I would tell them, well, for me, this is probably something I would never do, but I kind of just took that leap of faith. And so I would tell them to, really trust Jessica. She knows what she's talking about. And, all of us, we didn't have any negative experiences. It was a lot of fun. And I think at the end of the week, we all saw that we were all happy we went. And they would experience the same thing. I don't think you wouldn't come back and, regretted your choice.
So like I said, I was definitely going to miss my family being gone for the week, and I didn't really want to not see my family over break. But to be honest, when I was down there, it felt like they were family. Jay on our site, me and him just connected a lot, and he, by the end of it, told me that I could be his granddaughter any day that I wanted to. He was, oh, how old was he? Was he? Yeah, he was in his 80s, so like definitely older than what I was. um, but yeah, so I kind of adopted a grandparent down in Kentucky, and that just like, I don't know, they were super welcoming, and if somebody was feeling like they were going to be missing home, I'd tell them down there is home. Like, they accept you and they'll love you too. So.
They forgot to study for this opportunity. I think I'll speak for some of them, but then while you guys think of maybe your own answer, just in every person that we encountered down there, whether they were the volunteers or like the participants, the residents of the houses that we were working on, just seeing God in each of them and just being able to leave Stephen's point, leaving our community, leaving a place where we knew and being placed into just a completely different environment with different people, but seeing that they are not different from us, that we are all the same, and that just seeing God's face in all of them. And I think it was a good eye-opening experience for them to be pulled out of something that they're so comfortable in, but see that it's not so uncomfortable, and that they make you feel like home, and that they feed you and welcome you, and just all of the same things that your own family would do and that your own neighbor would do. And so just to get that experience to love our neighbor as ourselves, I think was being able to bring that back and see that everyone here now in our community isn't so much different from us, and that we can love them as much as we love those people down in Kentucky.
So similar to what Jess said, like when we were driving down there and getting closer to the parts of the Eastern Kentucky that we were going to be working on, you could see like one house would be like really nicely built with a great driveway, big plot of land that's all nicely taken care of, and the next house is like kind of in shambles and is not well taken care of. And it's just like such a stark difference between like neighbors, but it's just so crazy to see that this is the same community. And so when Jesus says that the poor will always be with us, it's because like they're the same as us. Like we're all just people of God trying to have families, have communities, be loved. Like there really isn't a difference. And that was just really, really amazing to see. Like I said, like the resident that was at the house that we worked on, like he had built this house. He did not have a whole lot of carpentry experience, but he built it for his family to provide. Like that is all that we are trying to do here. And so, I mean, that is just probably what I took away the most. Hopefully that kind of answered your question, but yeah. Yeah, okay, there you go.
I feel like I talked a lot, but like the poor, they may not have a lot of physical things to give to this world, but they have so much to offer, even though it's not material things. Like the joy that we saw in them, even if they didn't have much, was so crazy. Like that we could be here with all of these things and still be like sad and like upset that we didn't get something that we really wanted. But seeing that they are so joyful and happy without so little, like, was just really, like, cool to see, I guess, and inspiring.
Thank you guys for letting us share our experience.
Well, just to say, we're so happy for you that you came to know the joy of the Lord in a deeper way. Please know how much joy you bring to each of us, and that we will carry that joy as well. Let's just thank these young people again for being with us this morning. And just to say that we are working hard to encourage a group of high school students to take a similar summer service trip in June as a collaborative effort. And yes, we already have one adult volunteer for the trip. Yeah. So please know that those young people will be asking your support in preparing for that trip as well. So thank you all again.